Should the people of the Philippines and your court decide that to go forward with the enhanced defense capabilities agreement, I think what it does in general, it provides, first of all, a strengthening of the alliance for the 21st century. Well, I think the first thing you would see is you would see some infrastructure that you already have improved to be able to bring in and maybe put some pre-positioned equipment in places that might have multiple uses across multiple contingencies, which means it might be equally useful in a hurricane response situation as it would be to a land contingency somewhere in the region. So we'll be looking at things that sustain forces like gas and oil that go into airplanes.
Okay.
Be looking at the quality of runways in different places. Be looking at depths of piers and accesses for ships of different sizes into different places around the Philippines. Access of places where you might choose to put a submarine. Places where you might choose to put, if the Filipinos desired it, in certain times of the year, a number of military training teams that work together with Filipino forces. So it just broadens the opportunities for us to be able to assist you in your minimum credible defense that has been well defined by President McKean.
My view is the Chinese, certainly in the way they're thinking about their force planning and so on in the region, they have baked into that cake the notion that the EDCA will, be passed and will the cooperation will be deepened between the two sides. And probably what we're likely to see from them is more argumentation about how U.S. action, if you will, with things like EDCA is, shall we say, encouraging the Filipinos to perhaps be more adventuresome, if you will, than they otherwise would have been on their own. So I think we can expect a pretty typical reaction.
With the EDCA, the U.S. is going to help increase maritime domain awareness for the Philippines. When President Obama was in the region, he announced that the U.S. will spend about $425 million, about almost 70 million of that in the Philippines, and then dividing that out between Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam. So there's an awful increased amount of cooperation of countries on the periphery of the South China Sea. Vietnam and the U.S. are stepping up military ties. Malaysia. And we've just seen in the last few days the announcement that Singapore will host a P-8 plane for aerial surveillance. I think, it's ultimately, it depends, it's a little bit up to China to decide how it's going to respond. Its neighbors who very much appreciate China's economic rise. They appreciate how they benefit economically, China's building of infrastructure, selling commodities, etc. That they recognize they benefit greatly. But on security issues like the South China Sea, there's a lot of anxiety. So to follow up on what Chris said, really China will have to decide if it wants to have half a relationship which focuses mostly on economics, and while the rest of the relationship is rather strained.